going, but I am so excited to welcome our guest today, Dr. Traci Baxley. Before I let her speak, I'm going to give an introduction. Dr. Traci Baxley is an educator, coach, speaker, and the creator of Social Justice Parenting, a parenting philosophy that moves parents from fear-based parenting to parenting from a place of radical love. And Traci is also the founder of BrownSchooling, a homeschooling consultancy. As an educator for almost 30 years, Dr. Traci Baxley has taught at various levels from kindergarten to higher education. Currently, as a professor, she teaches multicultural education and curriculum and instruction courses. She is also the mother of 5 beautiful children whom I have met virtually. And with her professional and personal experiences, she offers heart-centered approaches to supporting moms on their parenting journey. And today, Dr. Traci Baxley, who has personally homeschooled her children, talks to us about homeschooling because even though I'm not a mom, I say I'm a mom ally. I'm an auntie ally. So I've seen a lot of moms talk about, whole new world here, right? Everyone is having to homeschool. Of course, there's people who have chosen to do it even before all of this, as you did, Traci. But I'm just so excited to have you here to talk to us about this and answer all our homeschooling questions. So, Dr. Traci Baxley, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Excited to be here.
Yes, excited. I got a lot of questions for you, but like I said, I'm an ally, so I'll only jump in with questions when the moms don't have questions.
Okay.
So, to get us started, how do parents, and this is what I've just seen a lot of folks talk about, how do parents right now avoid the overwhelm, even of the idea of homeschooling right now?
Yeah, it's a lot. And listen, it's a lot for moms that homeschool too, because I have homeschooled my children, but not all of them, and not all of them at the same time. So I am also in the boat of homeschooling during this pandemic, and it's a different beast for me as well. So I think the first thing we need to do is just kind of breathe
Hmm.
and give ourselves a little grace. I know that's a saying that I use a lot, but really, life is different right now. And so we can't pretend that we're going to just add this to our plate like it's something small and keep going with the way life was before. So don't try to do that because you get into the state of overwhelm. So my first suggestion again is breathe, right? Back up a little bit, give yourself the space that you need. And if you need to slow down in this process, slow down. This is uncharted territory for all of us, including every school district. And so as we are all learning and growing and trying to figure this out, know that they are trying to figure it all out too. And so if you need more time and space, I say you need to ask for that in the school district, and go at the pace in which you feel like your family can handle it. And I know a lot of families have kids who have some anxiety in general, that this is a big deal for your family. And so I say think about the needs of your family and proceed in the manner in which it works best for your family.
Yes,
That's
and
the
one
first thing.
that's
Hmm.
the first thing. And one of the things that I know, I sent you an article. It's like, let's talk about this just this evening from my friend Erica, who happens to be on our call today. And the article, the woman just, I'm paraphrasing here, kind of said, my home is not a school. We're not going to be on this rigid schedule. I'm trying to create a home of safety, especially, which made sense to me because during this time, that's what we all want our homes to sort of be sanctuaries, ideally. And then to have to imply or force this sort of rigid schedule on your children, or if you have to get your work done at this time or between certain times. If you have multiple children, that might seem impossible to do. So I did want to hear and I think I know your answer, but I do want to hear just
Yeah.
about this idea or this concept of, I think when everyone, from again, just from what I see, because I'm not a parent, a lot of folks were trying to keep the schedule, trying to do, everything by the rules. And it's sort of, do we still stick to the rules, or are we all doing the best we can?
Yeah, I say we don't stick to the rules because new rules need to be made at this point, right?
Right.
And I think if a family needs to say we just need to breathe for a minute, I think they should do that. I also like the child development major in me also says kids thrive on routine.
Mm.
So once we get over that shock and the fear and the grace period, we need to get the kids on a routine. They thrive on routine. They need parameters in order to grow and to feel safe. So, the counter to that is when you feel like there's that's needed, we need to get them on a schedule. Now, maybe it's not the schedule that the school board is putting out for you, but I think, when your grace period is over, that as a mom, then a schedule is a great thing for kids to feel safe and to feel like things are as normal or a new normal as they can be, and that we're going to move beyond and move past this.
Okay, so we're going to dive more into scheduling. I know that's something people definitely want to know more about, how to do, I would imagine. Another thing I wanted to ask you about, from just an educator standpoint, can homeschooling be as effective as going into school every day? So as I said, as an educator and also someone who has homeschooled your children or a few of your children, what do you think from that perspective? And I ask that because, again, not only are parents taking on this, now I have to be a homeschooler, but also, is this something that's going to be as effective for my child as if they were going to school every day, as far as the education piece?
Right. Okay. And I'm wearing several hats here because
Yes.
as a professor, I teach teacher education. So I teach
Mhm.
teachers to be teachers. So most of my kids are in public school right now. I've homeschooled my kids when they needed it.
Mhm.
And
So you've
so,
alternated between homeschooling and sending to school.
yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. And I still believe in the power of public education, but I also know that public education is not the answer for every child at every year, every stage of their lives.
Mhm.
So that's my kind of stance on that. But what I would say is 100% homeschooling can be as effective as schooling, because when you think about the instructional day at school, it, it's not that there's not that many hours. When you think about, transitioning from period to period, transitioning from subject to subject, you have lunch, you have walking to lunch, whatever those things are. When you kind of whittle down the day, you're talking between 3, maybe 4 tops hours of instructional time a day at school. So if you sit down with your kids from 9 to 12, you can get a day's worth of subjects in without a problem when you're homeschooling. And the upside of homeschooling is they get one-on-one instruction, or in my case, 1-on-5 instruction, right? But small group. They can be more focused because there's less distractions around. Um, the curriculum, if you were designing your own, if you had some wiggle room, can be personalized to your child, what they like, how fast or how slow they work. As much as teachers try to differentiate the instruction based on the kids in their classrooms, there's a lot of times that they have to play to the middle, right? Because that's the pace of the majority. So if your kid is a fast learner, or if your kid needs a little bit more time, homeschooling certainly could help with that. So that you're catering more to the needs of your children. And honestly, nobody knows your kids better than you do. So you
Mhm.
know what they need more of or less of, what you can move faster on. If I have like one child who loves math and can get through math so quickly, but it takes longer for him to do writing. So I can spend more time on writing with him, and the math we can go through in 20 minutes and he'll have it done. So you know your children's strengths and their weaknesses and where you can help and where you need to spend more time. So honestly, I think as a parent, you could make homeschooling very effective for your child, even if you're not an educator.
Right. And I think, moms, tell me in the chat, tell Tracy and I if this is something that sort of freed you. I know it freed me. Like I said, I don't even have kids. And I was like, oh, the fact that you said, and I don't think people maybe take this into account, or again, maybe I just didn't. We don't think about all the transitions that go on at school that take up
Yeah,
time. So people might be trying to homeschool their child from, what is school usually, 8 to 3, which is impossible. Anyone's going to go crazy, especially if you're trying to work at home as
yeah,
well. But
yes,
as you said, if you look at between, if you're teaching between 9 and 12, or really focused, whatever the time is, but for less hours, but focused work, having your child do that, you can cover the same amount of ground as opposed to trying to get in an 8-hour school day,
that's
which
right.
doesn't take into account the did I don't know. Did that free anybody? You let me know. You don't have to let me know now, but that just made so much sense. And I'm going to share that with as many moms as possible. And I'm just saying moms here because, there are husbands, there are partners. We all know that. But usually, we're taking the lead. So that's why I'm only saying moms. But whoever is doing the homeschooling, I just think that's something to remember during this time. If this is all new to you, just don't beat yourself up, especially if you haven't been teaching for 8 hours in a day. Would you say that's right, Traci?
Yes, that's right. Now, I do know a lot of school districts, including mine, they are now trying to do live sessions, which really kind of messes up. Like, even for me, I had my schedule, what my schedule was going to be like with my kid, how we're going to have a morning academic time and an afternoon academic time. And things in, because my district is technically on spring break this week. So we don't start back up until next week with the school district. So I have been getting the emails now from teachers saying, oh, we're going to be live. The kids need to be on the call from 8:30, again at 10:30. This teacher wants whatever. So things are changing quickly as I have set and prepared for my children's day.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I have a lot to say about that too. I mean, and so when you have a district that is kind of creating a day that's 6 or 8 hours, it becomes a problem with you, especially if you work outside of the home. And my take on that is, again, this is uncharted territory for all of us. And if you, which is one of my kind of things to think about while we're in this middle of this homeschooling, is regular communication with your teachers. So if that live session is not working for your day, then you can call your teacher and say, I have 3 kids, I have 2 kids, I have 5 kids, and that time is very difficult for us to do live. Can you please record that? And I will make sure my child watches that, and we will send you something to say, we've done that work, we've seen that lesson. Or I'll take it upon myself to teach them after they've watched the lesson. So don't be afraid to advocate for your family and your children during this time, because it's going to be hard for teachers to say no when we're all kind of navigating this space in a way that we don't really know what we're all doing, So speak up, speak regularly, say, we can't make that live, but we will make it up. Talk about what you can do to counter that or to take the place of that live session. And you got to find a balance that works for your family. I
Yeah.
mean, the other option too, which is an extreme option, but it's an option that I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about even pulling my children out of school and
Mm.
deciding to traditionally homeschool them, because that way I can do my curriculum and I can do the times that work for my family. Now, I'm not saying that's possible or probable for everybody, but it's something to think about. While you are homeschooling, look at what your state mandates are for homeschooling your children. For Florida, it's just really you're signing a piece of paper that says I'm now homeschooling. And at the end of the year, we turn in paperwork to show that we've homeschooled, and have a certified teacher kind of sign off to say they saw our portfolio. And that way you can teach a curriculum that you want. You know the standards that your school, your district has for each grade level. And the standards are generally wide enough and vague enough that you could teach it through any content. And you can decide the content that you want to teach your own children. So that's an extreme, but that's an option as well.
Yeah, certainly one I'm sure a lot of people haven't, well, I would imagine haven't thought about. Just like you said, you might be able, it may work better for your family if you go that route, and it might be even easier than we think. Like, that for the state of Florida, but I know we have folks in Atlanta and Texas and New
Yes.
Jersey and New York. So what do you think we would need to search for in order to find that out if folks just wanted to Google what
I would just Google whatever your district is
county
called,
is?
and then put
Hmm.
homeschooling, and you'll get the
And you'll get
forms in the packet or whatever the mandates are for your county
Wow, that's good, Tracy. That's a good one. Again, we're not necessarily, well, I'm not advocating for that, but I am advocating for it as an option, right? It's something
Yes,
that we might not think about. And I love, well, we're going to go through actually Tracy's 5 things that she wants you to know about this. And we'll talk about that communication piece, because I think that's very important too. We might feel like it has to be this way because the district says, the principal says, the teacher says, whereas, like you said, it's new for everybody and they have to, I would think, at least listen when a parent says this doesn't work, but record it and we'll watch it, or this is how I'll make sure that they do this work. Especially, like as you said, if you're
yeah. And a
educating
lot of
multiple
it is
children.
about them trying to take attendance because they have a
Uh,
mandate saying that children have to be in school 180 days. That's what that really is about. So they
oh, which
want
is
you to check
again
in.
a rule that doesn't, I mean, the world has sort of changed just a little bit, right?
Right,
So that
right,
doesn't even
right.
make sense.
And
Yes.
and the districts are changing every week. There's new,
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to figure it all out.
Right.
And so the check-in is really about attendance.
Oh, okay. And also, I wonder if or also just for everyone communicating, if you do have, like, say you have 3 laptops at home, you and I talked about this, Tracy, or you have a certain number of computers, et cetera, at home, and different children are using it at different times. Again, that live time for that particular child might not work. So there's a lot of, I guess, justifications or true reasons that you could share with some teacher or principal or whomever you have to communicate to talk about why you need some other kind of arrangements.
Definitely.
So, Tracy, let's go through then the 5 things you want every parent to know about homeschooling overall. And I know the first one is talking about breathing, as you said, and giving yourself some
Yes.
grace. So, talk to us a little bit more about just why that's so important for us as the parent.
I think sometimes we get wrapped up in doing things the way that they've been done. And and you know how I feel about balance. I think people are trying to figure out how to balance work and trying to balance the homeschooling. But I think it's balance is so elusive to me. I just think it's not something that's real. And I think it's about now, this is a new normal for now. How do we find harmony in that so that we are not overstressed and our children are not overstressed? So, this idea of finding harmony and finding flexibility in our schedules so that instead of forcing life in a way that we can flow with where we are, so that our kids don't feel that stress and so that we can take some of that stress off ourselves. And that's kind of one of it. The harmony and the flexibility is one of the things that I'm advocating for because, again, this is a new normal. And so if we're trying to hold on to things that were and trying to fit things into what we already know our schedules are tight and full, this will drive all of us over the edge. So you've got to, again, back up and really reestablish a new schedule instead of trying to fit this into an already existing schedule. Maybe that means you're going to have to wake up a little bit earlier than your kids to get some of your real work done. You may have to time block their lunchtime with your working time. Maybe, and this has been my case, I've been giving my kids a little bit extra electronic time that they don't normally get during the week so that I can answer emails or do something like that. So we may have to back away do's and don'ts or and rethink something to find some harmony in this place that we're in now and being flexible with that. So that's kind of one of my other to-dos. Be flexible, find harmony, stop looking for balance, stop trying to fit stuff in, figure out what you can take out to find some harmony that kind of flows with where we are right now.
Let's talk a little bit on that one about the, just as you mentioned, the work from home kind of thing where you, just as you, in your case, excuse me, in your case, you had to do, even before all of this, you were there might be days that you were home more often and you were homeschooling also. So what are just a few things, other things with that people can try to use as some techniques as well, because everyone's at home, everyone's homeschooling, everyone's trying to work from home, trying to do all the things right now.
Yes. Okay. So one of the things that we do I do here is I wake up 2 hours before my kids. That way I get my meditation on, I set my day,
Right.
I do my walk. I have our schedule laid out before they get up and I do all my checking my emails and doing all that stuff before they get up. I also have a commands center in my house where all of their supplies are, so nobody has to get up looking for supplies. It's right near the printer. I've turned my home, our kitchen table into a place where academic happens. So the Chromebooks are there, the computers are there. I also changed one of my walk-in closets, a small walk-in closet. That is the live room. So when they have to go live with their teacher, they can move and go to that closet, do their live, and then they come back to the table for academics. So have some organization where everybody is where they're supposed to be when the academics is going on. And during the academics, you can have your laptop sitting there too. You may have to monitor your kids, obviously depending on their age and their independence, but you can also be working while they're working. You know, it won't be 4 hours of work. It may be a half an hour that you have to have a child. So you have to kind of fit that in where you can, as best you can. Also, they get a lunch break. During their lunch break, you may want to pre-make something. You know, if you have older kids who can make their own food, have them make their own food. And I also have with our command station where I have all the crayons and the pencils, I also have like snacks. So they're not up getting snacks, not telling me hungry. They can get a granola bar, they can get some grapes, whatever. Set snacks out for the day. Also, I have older kids. You know, I have college down to elementary school. My oldest can also help my younger ones. You know, I have kids, my oldest son is like a math whiz. So if one of the younger kids need math help, I can elicit some help from an older one to do some work or whatever with the younger ones. During reading time, I try to get a half an hour where all my kids are sitting and reading. I could read stuff for my business. I can be reading my own students' papers, whatever it is, find that time. It won't be big stretches of time possibly, but lay out a schedule so that you see where those pockets of time can fit. And know that you won't be working at 100%. So if you can let that go
right,
and
right.
accept that, it will be less stressful for you. And one thing that I also, and this is another one of the 5 things, is this expectation of organization, this is all part of that, but also having a family meeting around what's going on. You know, things like, okay, things are not the same here. This is how I feel. I don't have all the answers as your mom. I know some things you're asking questions about. We're going to figure this thing out as a family. We're going to get through this together, and we may have to hobble as we go. And I would then we created a family schedule. This is our new schedule now. The old schedule is no longer working. Let everybody voice, have buy-in from everybody. I don't know how, you know, depending on how old your kids are, but you can do this when they're 5 and 4, you know, letting their voices be heard, and then creating a family schedule and then making that schedule visible for everybody. I had just today, I don't know if anybody follows me on BrownSchooling on Facebook, to recreate our schedule now based on these teachers having live sessions. So I created a movable interactive board at my house with push pins and paper saying, okay, who has live this week? Because some people are live every morning, some people are only live, they give you 24-hour notice to say they're going to be live. And so I have my kids moving their names around, so each day we'll know who's going to be live so that we can follow that schedule. So it's visible for all of us, and we don't miss any live sessions if we can help it. So rearranging your schedule and knowing that schedule is going to look different during this time.
Yes, and I think this having the space, like you said, of creating a space wherever that is, whatever that looks like, where is like this is the workspace, this is where we go to work, this is the focus area. I think even from a work from home standpoint, I know for me, having the space that's the workspace, and then everything else is whatever that space becomes outside of that. But I think that's super powerful. And can you talk to us a little bit about the organization piece? Like, how do we go about making a schedule? How did you go about creating your schedule? Like you said, getting buy-in from your children, and what kind of things did you consider when you did it?
Well, in my house, we have, we call the My Pack. the my pack,
Mm-hmm.
which are non-negotiables in our house. Like, so those are our morning routines that sets our day, that sets our day for the rest of the day. So they wake up and they do their my pack, and that is, M is for the meditation, I is for the I am journals, which Elaine
Yes.
taught me, and I've taught my own kids. They wake up and do their I am journals, and then the pack is for their prayers. That we pull affirmation cards every day, and then they do a chore. So they wake up and they do their my pack every morning. So that was non-negotiable. And then we looked at our own schedule based on the way we thought that we were going to do academics. So we thought we'd work out first to get our minds kind of open and ready, and then we were going to do academics. But because now we're getting all the emails saying that we have to be live, we've had to change our schedule to fit them going live. And so I think thinking about your kids and what their needs are, you don't have to do lives, where their minds are mostly fresh, what they need to do before work. If we have teenagers, I don't even know why. I mean, all the studies say that teenagers need more sleep and they should not be going to school at 7 o'clock in the morning, that high schoolers really should be going to school at 9.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not going live, I would let my teenagers sleep a little bit and start them later, just based on what the studies say about that age group. So I would say the schedule needs to be based on your family and how they learn, and how it works for all of you. And so I would start with the non-negotiables first. But I think it's really important that everybody has voice with that schedule, that it's not just kind of mandated and given down to the kids, but let the kids really kind of talk about what they're feeling and what they need to still be in place in order to feel safe or to feel validated or feel like they have some control.
And you said that input can come from children as young as 4 and 5, even to talk about what about the schedule, or give their insight of how
Absolutely,
they feel about the
absolutely.
schedule, right? As opposed to, oh, they're too
Yes.
young, they don't know, they're just gonna. What do you think about? And I'm just sharing. If you see me looking around, everyone, I'm just sharing the Zoom link again for everyone. What do you think about also the telling why this is happening to younger children who might not understand why everything has changed? To what degree, in your opinion, like, what have you shared with your younger? Well, I know you all talk about everything that's going on, but how would you advise other parents or moms have those conversations even?
I would share facts, share the facts.
Mm.
There's a lot. A great lesson that's out there now for younger kids. I don't know if anybody knows Brain Pop. It's a
Mm.
website, but they have a great lesson plan and video and questions on what the coronavirus is. So if you have younger class kids, that's a great. This is why I think creating your own lesson plans are so great. It really is a great place that's explaining, and it's a cartoon. So it's really great for the older kids. There are a lot of TED Talks that are out there about the coronavirus. I would say talk to them about the facts, how it happened, how you can get it, ways that we're going to move forward as families to prevent it, the things that are in our control, and be honest about not having all the answers and that you're scared too. And that as a family, you guys are going to work through safe, and keep the family members safe. Let them stay in touch with friends via Facebook or Zoom or something so that they have some normalcy in their lives as much as possible. But I am definitely a proponent of always being honest with your children, no matter how scared you are. Even when you don't know all the answers, they need to know that you don't know all the answers, because as adults, they need to know that there are some things that you're going to have to search for and that you don't always have the answers, but you can still move forward and still feel safe.
And with the schedule, I don't know if I missed you saying this, and just because as you mentioned, the schedule can the schedule, I should say, create a sense of normalcy? I know we talked about routine, but actually saying this time we do this time we do that, this time we do this. Does that help also for the kids to feel like, okay, I know what's coming at this part of the day. This is what we do at this time. Just sort of in some way giving them not anything rigid, but just again, some sense of a routine or normalcy.
Yes, kids thrive on structure. I
Right.
mean, it's, yeah,
No matter
from
how much they
childhood.
fight against it.
Yeah, Absolutely, absolutely.
Right. And
And they feel safe when they know what's coming next.
they feel safe when they know what's coming next. And what about where we publish? I'm such a editor writer, right? What about where we post or place this schedule? Should it be in a place like in the kitchen or over the wherever the work area is that we're going to have be our workstation for everyone? How do
Yes,
we should make
it
sure
needs to be visible. It needs to be visible where
visible?
everybody can see, so that, especially because it's going to be a new schedule, so that you can say, okay, so if you have younger children, this is our schedule. Finish this. What do we do next? What's next? So they know what's coming next. They can see when their breaks are, because that's important too, right? If I'm working from home, I want to see when I get a chance to go outside or go in the backyard or have some downtime. So that's important too, for them to see what's coming next, when they're going to have lunch, what all they need to complete in order to get to the next thing. So we
Mhm.
have our schedule, at least our, we have a calendar, a big calendar in our kitchen. And then we've now created our cork board. I took everything down, and it's our live sessions on that cork board where the children can see when it is they need to go to the closet, and when the next person may need the closet for a live session. So yeah, absolutely having it visible, going through it, because this is now a new routine that we all need to kind of wrap our minds around. And listen, they also can help you remember what's going on next. They're great
Right.
at reminding us.
Right. For the smaller ones, I imagine you can make them helpers. Right? Like
Yes,
help mommy remember what the heck is
definitely,
going on.
definitely.
Yeah, that's good. Excellent. All right. So, number three, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but the importance of communicating with teachers. So, how, in your example, how would you best go about doing that outreach? Do you start with the teacher? In the example where we talked about if the schedule where they now want to do live classes doesn't work for you and all your children, should the teachers be the first stop? Should the principal of the school be the first stop?
Yeah,
Or
the
what?
teachers are always the first stop with your
Okay.
kids. Yes. Yeah, you don't ever want to go over the teacher unless you have to. Um,
Okay. See, this is
and
why I'm an ally and not a, this is why I ask the questions, right? I'm not
no,
giving no advice
yeah,
here. It's all
it's
questions.
good
Okay.
questions. Good
Teachers
questions.
are
Yeah.
the first stop.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're the first line. And so if you have problems with the live, you definitely should say, I have a problem with the live. We're not, the way our schedule is set up, the way our family's set up, the way I have other children, that live, I can do the 8 o'clock live to let you know I'm there, but the 11 o'clock live, I'm going to have to record and then come back to that. Some of it may be as simple as, like, listen, I had to buy another Chromebook for my house because with the 5 kids, I didn't have enough devices for all my kids to be on live and then still be doing their work. So, all families can't afford that. I mean, luckily for us, we were able to order off Amazon and get, a couple $100s and get another Chromebook. But that, although I know a lot of schools are giving those things out, but that could be a problem, for a barrier for some families as well. Something something as simple as that. But I would definitely reach out to the teacher to say, this is too much. We're not going to be able to do this. I'd be happy if you please record it to show we watch it later. They're using either Canvas or they're using Google Classroom. So they have all the assignments up on one of those platforms.
That's what I was going
And
to
so
ask. Are most districts probably requiring teachers to record this? I would think it's not a live or you missed it kind of situation, or I guess it varies.
yeah, it varies, but I would ask and request that,
Mm-hmm.
because again, this is new territory for all of us, and it it may. So I would be very um, vocal about advocating for what you think your family needs.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you think about, let's see, number four, we talked about this again a little bit, harmony and flexibility. How flexible should we, how flexible should we be, especially with not only with ourselves, but with our children? Like say I have my time that we're supposed to study, right? We have the schedule, everybody's clear, but Dylan doesn't feel like it today, or, it just is whatever it is. How flexible should we be, especially knowing all the other things that are going on during this time?
Yes, I'm going to speak to that from my mommy
Yes, trying
stance.
to put on your mommy
Uh,
hat.
yes, we can be flexible with our schedule, but when we have a schedule and this is the time you're supposed to work, I'm going to be expecting you to work.
Mm.
So the flexibility comes with knowing that our schedule is going to be different, us creating a schedule together, us outlining our day. That's where the flexibility comes. Me knowing that I'm not going to be able to work as much. I'm going to have to get up early or sneak stuff in between. That's the flexibility. But when we as a family say this is our schedule, and we're trying to also adapt to some of the schedules that are coming from teachers, we're going to start off trying to adapt. But when it's work time, it's work time. And so I know my kids enough to know that this is a way to manipulate, right? We have that too. Kids are very good at that. And so you have to know your kid. So for me, when it's time to work, all 5 of you guys got to be working. So, yeah.
No, I was going to say, I'm glad that you mentioned about the manipulation or sort of, kids, like you said, kids know how to use the moment or whatever it is to be able to take advantage and not want it. Maybe they don't feel like it, but to your point, now is the time. We agree this is the time to work. So it's still obviously loving, but very much making sure that everybody sticks to their agreement. This is the agreed upon time, right?
Right, exactly. That's why, that first about the breathe and to give yourself grace. Some families may need a little bit more grace and a little bit more slowing themselves back into it than others. And so your kids better than anybody else. You know the family dynamic. And so I think you should make that call. But when your family's ready to get going, they need to get going. And then you should have that structure for them to feel like, okay, we're over the hump. Now we're back on a schedule, and this is our new norm, and let's get to it.
Right. So everyone, please, if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. I was looking up here too, just to see if we had any questions on Facebook. I'm going to get to those after Traci goes over step number 5. So please ask any questions or give any feedback or your thoughts. Share those in the chat here if you're with us on Zoom. Share them in the comments if you're with us on Facebook Live. Doing all the things here, all the things. Erin said, we need you at my house. So I don't know if you're taking requests to fly to... Thank you, Erin. That is a very straightforward ask. I love an empowered ask. Erin says, we need you at our house. Excellent. So Traci, talk to us about finding the silver lining. I know Erin, we will share at the end, though, how people can talk to Traci. We're all doing this virtual thing. Get coaching, consulting, support from her at the end, too. But people are probably feeling that, Traci. We need you at our house. But tell us about number 5, finding the silver lining.
Yeah, I would say it's, even though this has been very scary for all of us, our kids and us, and we're still trying to figure things out. I have been able to see the positive in this. It has made us all slow down to really reprioritize, to really look at what is really important. I mean, obviously it's our families, right? It also has made my family reconnect in ways. I literally, and I know a lot of you moms can relate to this, I spend 5 to 7 hours a day in the car, driving child pickup from school, bringing them home, going to one practice, coming back, going to another practice. From like 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock, pretty much at least 4 days a week, I'm shuffling kids around. I have just got 5 hours a day back. And we are doing more board games, more Uno playing. One of my kids have just discovered he wants to start baking. So he's been baking. It's just been nice to just recenter ourselves. So use this time to not really feel the stress of homeschooling and really thinking about, we have so much more time. How do I hit the reset button a little bit to focus on the things that matter the most? And it's also a time to think about letting go of things that no longer serve you, right? It could be people, it could be projects, it could be material things, but this gives us a chance to kind of reset and start over. And I'm finding a lot of things in my life that either that I don't need anymore, or people that I have not talked to through all this and thought, boy, that was a lot of weight on me. They brought a lot of, not negative energy, but a lot of energy that was used up by them that I didn't realize. So I say finding something positive in all of this is to really hit the reset button with your family and with the things that are really important. So take some time to do that, including a little self-care. Those 4 hours that I've gotten back, I've gone walking every morning for an hour and 1 hour every evening. It's just been so fantastic to really kind of be out. I know some of you guys are in places where it's warm,
Where
warm
it's
or
80 degrees, whatever, Florida.
but, but it's been very nice to have a little bit of self-time, which I've not had because I'm always running kids around. So just try to find some ways to find the positive in this, and even if it's just reconnecting to your family.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. And I think too, it's interesting. I that's one of the things I think about is that maybe all of the many of us in this world will sort of restructure our lives based on this. Like there might be, just to your point, there might be things that we don't want to go back to. And like you said, maybe they weren't negative, but were they even necessary? Or there
Yeah,
will be things that you want to keep. Like I'm going to figure out how to keep that stroll in the morning and that stroll in the evening and other things like that.
definitely.
So it really is just sort of, now that we haven't gotten through the scary part, but I feel like last week was really like, what is happening? And now people are sort of figuring things out, and you see reports about how the planet is a lot less polluted now, and just all these things that you never thought would be sort of the side effects, if you will, of all of this. So I love that. So Veronica has a question here. She says, I have noticed we have a lot more good family time watching movies and playing games.
Yeah,
Actually, thank you, Veronica. To speak to that, I know you mentioned that too, Traci. Should that be, excuse me, part of our schedule also, like fun
scheduling
time
in.
or
Yes,
mm-hmm,
100%. Yes.
mm-hmm.
We that's part of our evening now. We do dinner together.
Which a
Again,
lot of families
dinner.
haven't,
Yeah,
right?
three of
Everybody's
us
usually
to
not
eat, and then the
home.
other one is gone. So then three, we only like sit together twice a week because during the week it's so crazy. But and this is the other thing. This is the other real silver lining for me. My kids are doing more chores because
Oh,
I sometimes get to where they're so busy that I'm like, okay, just do this piece and then I'll finish the rest.
they're so
Um,
busy with outside activities
right,
like
with
school
their
activities and
basketball and piano
ballet
and
and
whatever,
soccer,
all the
right?
stuff. Yes. Um, and so now it's like, okay, we have time. Everybody, like I always say, everybody pick up 10 things off the kitchen counter and 10 things in the family room. And we do that in 5 minutes, we're done.
Mm-hmm.
So not necessarily giving them one more chore individually, although I'm doing that too. We are learning, it's a great skill for people. In every work setting, you are working as a team. And so we are learning to kind of recharge and recheck how we work together as a team. And so that's been really great too, is watching my kids kind of plug back into each other and supporting each other in whatever it is they're doing. So it's that's been really great. And I agree. Was it Veronica that said about the
Yes.
games and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's been very nice. We pulled out all those games, dusted them off, and yeah, every night they're asking to play. They're asking to do stuff together. So it's been great.
Now, what about it? Anyone, again, please leave a comment. Feel free, drop a comment, leave a question, ask a question. I'm curious, Traci, for those moments when, we all might get irritated or feel, get a little cabin fever being cooped up in the house, or even if we can just go out in the yard, et cetera, and kids are not exempt from that. So how do you keep the peace? And you have 5. How do you keep the peace in moments where it feels like, the energy, something has happened and, either two aren't getting along or everybody's not getting on each other's nerves, or how do we handle that as well and
Yeah,
not get distracted by that?
yeah, I think giving them some grace
Yeah,
is
giving them
important.
grace too.
Yeah, definitely, because they are pent up. If it gets really bad, I give my kids a chore. They have to do a chore
Instead of a
together.
timeout, they do a
Yeah,
chore together.
we gotta do chores together. And by the
Right.
end, they're talking, they're laughing, and I got one thing. It's all good. But I'm giving them a little bit more room to be able to vent a little bit. And we talk about it, and we kind of work through what is that about? Why are you talking like that to him? We have like 5 major rules in our house, and one of them is you are your brothers and sisters keeper. And so how are you acting in a way that you're his keeper, you know. So, you know, we do that. And then my husband does like drills with them, like 10 push-ups, 10 sit-ups, you know, so we get that angst out that way. We
Right.
have these that I got from Five Below. I mean, I know you can't go to Five Below right now, but
What is
they're
it?
dice.
Fivebelow.com?
Maybe,
What is Five
maybe.
Below? What is that?
It's like a store, it's like a dollar store, but everything is under $5.
I got you. Okay.
And they have these dice that every corner of the dice, and there's, I don't know what shape it is, but it's more than 6 sides. It has a workout. And so there's 3 different colors with all different workouts. So you roll the 3 dice, and then we do like 2 or 3 rounds of that. So one may say 20 jumping jacks, one may say get a water break, and one may say hold a plank. So then
Mm-hmm.
we do that, you know, and again, as a family, you're working out together, you're having fun, seeing who could beat who. So it's a great way to get the angst out too, you know, working
Yeah,
out a little
releasing
bit.
that energy, that pent
Yeah,
up energy.
exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. Anybody have any other questions? Anything else that we forgot to address or ask? Tracy, you have anything else you want to make sure to share? I think we covered all of our 5 things.
I think we did.
Yeah, what do you feel like you hope is, you talked about the silver lining, but how do you hope that your family is changed by all of this? Because we're going to come through this, right? Well, actually, before that, even, I wonder if, I don't know, you don't have the answer, but I wonder if more people are going to continue, as we talked about, continuing different habits, continue homeschooling after this. So I'm just curious about that in general, if folks will eventually, once they find a rhythm, might decide, I'm going to keep doing this. I don't know. We'll see. That'll all come out, I'm sure, in the wash. But and you can weigh in on that. But I would love to know, even just for you and your family, and anyone can answer this, what do you hope comes out of this whole time that you're having to spend together doing things differently and learning, even learning what your children are learning? Some
Yes,
parents are like, I didn't
yes.
even know they were learning that in school or whatever it
And
is.
listen, and you know, now you're gonna bring my educator out of me. You know, we look at some of these textbooks our kids are having, and they are very one perspective. And
Mm.
you know, I'm big on having every perspective taught to my kids. That's kind of, you know, what I teach at the university. This idea of critical literacy and having some hard conversations about what's missing from these textbooks is really important. It is a great way to see what your kids are learning and what's being left out and who's being left out of the curriculum,
And do you
whose
have those
voices are
conversations
dominant.
with your children about that? Just about, this textbook has, or
Like,
this
for
particular
example,
thing has
yeah,
one
yes,
perspective.
yes. This is an example. My daughter, when she was in, I don't know, middle school, she brought home her textbook and we were reading it together, and the sentence, or she was learning about Native Americans, so I guess it was American history. The comment in the book said something about a lot of the Native Americans died because the settlers accidentally brought blankets over that had smallpox on them. And so like that like made me crazy when we know what happened to Native Americans. They were slaughtered, right? And so I said to her, now let's read that again. Now, if you were a Native American, how would you have written that? You know,
Mm.
what would you have said that you guys, that you and your family accidentally died? Um, it was a smallpox that killed most of us. Like, how would you say that if you were a Native American? How would you write that? And you know, what is the author's intent here? Who's empowered? Who's empowered by that statement? And who's disempowered by that statement? Why do you think they would write it that way? And so those are the conversations that I think need to be had. And if you can have some of those conversations with your children, it really would teach them how to look at their text from a more critical lens.
Mm-hmm.
The same with this whole corona, right? When you're looking at certain news outlets or certain newspapers, it's very slanted with the way it's written. And so even if you're teaching your kids about the corona, you can get different sources to talk about why are they different, who's saying what, who's being empowered in one, why do you think it's written differently? What do you think, what are the facts? How do these readings align with the facts, the science? And so I think those are important conversations to have with our children daily. I mean, even if they're watching, I don't know, the Disney Channel, you should be
Right.
having those conversations with your children, you know?
I think it's so powerful. And maybe this is an educator standpoint, who's being empowered by this being written this way and who's being disempowered. That is really powerful for everyone to think about. April says here, we started homeschool this week with little lead time. I have loved this week. Not only are we seeing what they learn, but how they learn.
Excellent.
I need to reset, but I don't see the time. My husband and I are still trying to put in 6 to 8 hour days. I'm assuming that means work days, right, April? Is it okay to give them a few days of vacation until we get it together? Is it okay to
Absolutely.
okay,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yes. And that's the time that you're going to now figure out your new norm or your new schedule.
Your new schedule.
Yeah. There's no need of rushing back into it if you don't have to, or you're not ready to. That's
Especially
my
as you
take
figure
on
out
it.
your work schedule too, right? It takes a few days for
Absolutely.
everybody to
Yeah.
go through, right? Figure out what's working and what's not.
And how you and your husband are going to say, okay, these are the hours that I'm going to work. Then you can help with the kids here. These are the hours that I'm going to work.
Oh, right.
And then so you may have to work different times in order to get the hours in. But
And as you
yeah,
mentioned, there might be a couple hours before everybody wakes up, before the kids wake up. But then I like that idea of the
yes,
trade-off times. Like between this time, you're working with the kids. Between that time, I am. And not having to do, April, I don't know if
yeah,
you were on for this. Tracy mentioned the 3 or 4 hours focus time could be as much as a child education time as a child gets in a school day. So it doesn't have to be as though a full school day is, or the same as a full school
and
day.
I think April makes a great point. You know, look at your district and see how many absent days a child can get per trimester or whatever your school goes. And if your child has not been absent yet and you have 10 days or 8 days, figure out how you can use that to reset. And I think that's totally fine.
Mm-hmm. One question everyone, please drop any other questions in or comments. One thing I did think about as we were talking, what about if you have a child who has special needs or special learning needs, especially, and you're trying to, again, teach them at home and trying to keep them focused and all the things. Are there, and I know you have experience with this, are there any tips or advice for that of how to, again, have them be focused or whatever, have them supply them with whatever is needed for them to be able to get their work done, because maybe they're not going to sit there
Yeah,
for 5 hours.
absolutely. So for a typical kid, typical child, the rate of attention, their attention span is 3 to 5 minutes per child, right? So if you
Three to
have a
five minutes
5-year-old
per it stopped for a
per
minute
age, per
per age.
year, yeah,
Okay, three
yeah.
to 5 minutes per age.
So if they're 5 and so you're talking about 5 minutes per year. So you're talking about at the most 25 minutes at a time to focus. So think about that is for a typical average child. Now, if you have a child with special needs, first of all, the school should have gotten in touch with you, which they may not have. You need to get in touch with the school, especially if you have a 504 plan already. That's a legal binding document that says accommodations for your child must legally be made. So if you have not heard from your teacher or your school of how they're going to adhere to your child's 504 plan, then you need to reach out to the school like tomorrow.
And if you
Um,
don't have a 504 plan, you should still reach out.
you should still
Definitely.
reach out because your teachers know your child,
Mm-hmm.
right? They know if they need a little bit more time. If can they do 10 math questions instead of 20 if they're getting those 10 right, because it takes us so long to do that. I think there's some negotiation that can happen for sure. And if you have a 504 plan, they get extra time, they get to record whatever they get to have at school. You need to negotiate of how that's going to with them. So be very proactive and advocate for your kids and your family in a very respectable way, but don't take no for an answer if your child needs it.
Mm-hmm.
And if your teacher cannot answer or does not budge, then you need to go to the next level.
So start with the teacher and have that
Start with the
conversation.
teacher, yes. Or if your child has a 504 plan, you may want to contact the ESC coordinator. That's the exceptional education is the person who can write up your 504 plans, which are the legal documents from
Say that one more time. The ESD is the
the ESE coordinator.
ESE
Yes, so
coordinator.
that's the exceptional student education. Those are students who have already been documented as having special needs, whether that's learning disabilities, processing issues, whatever those issues are in whatever subjects, because some people have it in reading and not have it in math and vice versa. You need to talk with a teacher, but also reach out to the ESC coordinator to find out how those accommodations will be made with your child being at school. What are the requirements for the teacher to do, and what can you do at home to make sure that their needs are met? And a lot of times that could be cutting their workload in half. With one of my kids, we don't do homework because homework is a problem. He has ADHD, so there's no homework at home. So I'm going to see what we can do at home, but I'm not going to push my child to where he's frustrated and he's not happy. So we'll figure that out as we go. Again, I'm going to be doing the same thing. I'm going to see how it works. Whatever doesn't work, whatever I feel like it's something that I need to change within the school day, I'm going to do that. If I feel like I need to pull my children out and homeschool them my way, then I would do that too. I think the idea of taking some days off and using your sick day, if you need to do that to kind of wrap your brain around everything, I think you should do that. But I also think teachers, I'm wearing my educator's hat, teachers should be, most of them will be willing to, again, we're all trying to figure this thing out. And I think they want your child to succeed as well. And so try to work with your teacher to figure out how you can make it so that it works for your family and it works for her or him with all of their, again, the teachers are scrambling too. People have never taught online before. They've got to learn new platforms. I know for our county, it's been their spring break. They've had to work on trying to put everything up online. So they're a little stressed too. So give them a little grace. But definitely don't be afraid to advocate for what your family and what your child needs.
Excellent. Traci, thank you so much. This is, just informative for me. I've written down notes here. I can hopefully share with folks, and I'll see if I'll watch this again and see if there's any links or anything we can provide to everyone. This will be also, if you all want to see a replay, it's going to be on our Facebook page for Support is Sexy. So it's facebook.com/support sexy, because Facebook doesn't let you put is in there. So it's facebook.com/support sexy. If you want to go back, watch this and watch the replay, I'll make sure we leave it up there. And I will make sure again to have links if there's any other resources and things. But Traci, Aaron says thank you. Traci,
Welcome. Thanks for showing up, everybody. I
Yeah,
know
thanks.
everybody's schedules are kind of
I know. I tried to make this late.
yeah.
Hopefully some of you, a few of you I know, so I know you had a glass of wine. But hopefully, this is a good unwind, the wind down, dinner is already done. Hopefully this is a good time for everyone just to chill and hear some information, ask questions or share. So thank you, yes, all of you for coming and being here. And please share the replay with any moms that who you think this might be helpful. So Traci, before we let you go, please tell everyone how to get in touch with you, how to find out more about you and all that great stuff, especially Erin, who wants you to come to her. Tell her the alternative to come into her house.
.com, Traci and I.
Say it again.
And I'm TraciBaxley.com, which is TRACI. And I'm also on Facebook and what's the other thing? LinkedIn at Traci Baxley. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram at BrownSchooling.
Yes, and tell us, I didn't even mention, I mentioned it in your intro, but tell everyone what BrownSchooling is exactly, which I know was out of your experience. Well, you tell it. I'm about to tell your story.
Yeah. It's BrownSchooling really started when I decided to homeschool, and everybody was saying, "Are you homeschooling? Are you homeschooling?" And I was like, "No, I'm BrownSchooling," because my curriculum for my kids, it's always based on Black history, social justice, and so I just started calling it BrownSchooling, and I started creating curriculum around the things that I thought were important that I wanted my kids to learn. it just became kind of a business where I, write curriculum, and I, consult or help people who are trying to homeschool. So it started out as my own personal journey. And then, I just kind of thought if I had something to share, if anybody, it could benefit anybody else, then you're welcome to it. Yeah.
Excellent. So everyone, make sure you follow also at BrownSchooling. It is right on Instagram and also
Yes.
Facebook that you
Mhm.
follow. Look for tips there. But go to Traci, Traci Baxley, Baxley.com for more on Traci and all the things she's doing and coaching and any other support I'm sure she can offer for you all. Thank you, everyone. Again, Traci, thank you so much. You know how I feel about you and your brilliance. I'm like, please
Thank
come on and talk
you.
to the homeschooling ladies. But I appreciate you. I appreciate you
Sure.
sharing your insight, not only from an educator standpoint, but also, again, how you're doing it with your own family, having
Yeah.
homeschooled and having to adjust just like everyone else. So I hope these conversations are helpful. We are next week, I'm working on, just so everyone knows, having a doctor come on who my friend Erica actually posted her video. She's a woman, I think she's at Grady Hospital here, Dr. KJ. She has said yes, but of course, schedule allows. But she did this sort of heartfelt, not sort of fully heartfelt plea for people to stay home. And she spoke about just the what doctors and nurses and healthcare professionals are going through with this disease, and also having to speak to her child about her will because she's a single mom. She had to tell her son, I believe it was, if she doesn't come home, where he can find all the papers. So it really, just like you said, wow, it really made me like, wow, I just never, you hear all the stay home and all the problems they're having. So I hope to be able to have a conversation with her and have her come on and just talk to us about the things we need to know, maybe things we don't know, from a healthcare worker's perspective, excuse me. So I'll make sure I tell you all about that. Also hope to have someone come on to talk about finances too. Like, what kind of things should we be thinking about during this time? So just thinking of other conversations. And please, if there's any suggestions of things that you want to talk about or hear, feel free to let me know. I'm at Elaine Fluka everywhere. All right. So thank you, everyone. Traci, I'll talk to you soon. Thank you,
Okay.
everyone,
Sounds
again.
great. Thank
And be
you.
sure to watch the replay. All right. Have a great night, everyone.